He was very strange looking, dressed all in black, you know, this Swiss accent. And when we were looking at his work before we met him, we weren't really sure we wanted to meet him. You know? We were kind of disturbed about, is he really going to be here? You know.
I like if they are disturbed. Yes, that's good. I hate if they don't look at it, or if I have people they like my stuff, or others they hate it.
He's a wonderful artist. I think that was a great move having him design the whole film.
He was so strange. Most people kept him the creeps. They wanted his office way across the room than the other because he was like Dracula. He was Peter Lorre or something. He was always dressed in black, and he had very soft voice. But there was always these horrible stories. We heard that he had the skeleton from his fiancée who had committed suicide, and people gave him the creeps. I got along with him great. Dan and I and Ridley got along superbly. Everyone else sort of thought he was so weird that they didn't work with him too much. And as a result, that was good. It was great for Dan and I because we got so much input, getting along with him so well. People would kind of shy away from him. They'd say he was obsessed in his work. He had bones and of all kinds and all over the place.
The light hurts me. If you have too much sun, you like then to be in the shadow. And I like always to be in the shadow, in the dark.
I liked him a lot. He had a girlfriend called Mia, and they both dressed in black. He was very pale-skinned as well, and he was sort of spooky in a way. But I also kind of liked him, and there was a sweet side to him. He brought his mother over, you know, and his mother had hip replacements, and so he would take her out. I remember having dinner out one evening with him and his mother and Mia. And Giger was. I mean, we spent a lot of time together.
The eggs were designed and obviously made, and they would be the way up they were, with the aperture at the top, with a hydraulic opening, which would open, looking very threatening, with Jimmy Shields' great sounds on it. It's still one of the great sounds that when it opens, and you hear the viscera, and the strength, you know it's strong. The detail that he looks at later would be shot at Bray when the film is finished. So we'd ship one of those eggs out to Bray, and to make it really strange, because if you watch carefully, the fluid on it is going upwards. So then you flip that over, and that always freaked them out when they saw that dripping upwards. And then inside it was semi-transparent, like a large piece of jelly. And all it was a fiberglass with mostly glass than fiber in it, so it's nearly transparent. And I needed it to move. When we were in Brisbane and Bray, I kept looking. He's dead. So I have sticks in poking. It looked terrible. So we worked out a method of, as it was about to open, it kind of went like that, lit a little bit, and then I think he looks at it again, and inside, on my hands with 2 rubber gloves on, washing up gloves, and all I'm doing is going like that. And so that was how that was done. And of course, after that, he comes in and looks into the aperture opens, he backs off. We say, don't go there. He goes there, looks in, and what he's staring at is what they call Nottingham lace, which is fundamentally cow's stomach. That lacy, fleshy stuff is we call tripe. And so I got buckets of this in white plastic buckets, and I'd have to put on a white coat and gloves and handling this stuff, and I just dressed it on it. And then I couldn't find a whiplash effect of anything that you made, like a hose that was delicate enough. So I'd seen this sheep's intestine, which is actually beautiful. It's gossamer, got little lines in it. Well, it was in fragments, because all you do is cover the bits and then say, it's not enough to have him look and it explodes. You need every moment of it, and slowed down. So we slowed it down because it was really fast. You turn an airline on, it just goes whash. It happens in less than a second. Whereas I think we stretched that to maybe 1.5 seconds, maybe. And then it hits him as he goes back. I've already got it attached to his face. So you need that bridge between him coming in to look, him looking in, what he sees, and this is like that, explosion up into the camera, then cut where I've got this attached to his face as he falls backwards.
The face hugger, that was my first thing I did for Dan O'Bannon when he sent me, I think, about $1,000 to do some paintings for Alien, and he gave me explanation and drawings, and he said that he's jumping on a big egg. This egg is about that, so, and I thought that must be quite a big monster, so I did an enormous face hugger, like a and he was jumping. I thought he could jump when his tail is curved like a spring devil or whatever, the Jack in the Box. Later on, he said I should do it smaller. So I think something with human hands is always scary, very scary. So I had the long fingers. What is the most important part on the face hugger, and then it's a part, there's a little sexual, like, yeah, and the tube for that this beast has to put in the mouth, and then late I had these hands in front, and then Dan O'Bannon draw them sideways. That was better.
I thought, you can't beat this. The real thing's always better. So then I had orders coming from a very good fishmongers in Shepperton Village who had oysters, clams, and other parts of fish, a little bit of sturgeon, a little bit of caviar. I got them to make a cup with a container in rubber, which is the face hugger with the tail, the stinger, the like manta ray tail, and the hands. That was all articulated. Inside it, this was just a receptacle, and I just put in, with a pair of tweezers, put in 4 oysters, 1, 2, 3, 4, and put in a large kidney, and put in a so-and-so, and where you go. You can't do better than that. So you then poke at it with his instrument, and the legs move, and it gives you a shot.
The chest burst, that was a very, very heavy scene. I think the strongest thing in the whole film. The idea came from a painting from Bacon, Francis Bacon. Ridley Scott told me that this painting from 46, it's just a crucifixion, and one of the member has just teeth and red flesh, and he liked to have the chest burster like that, and I did some design. They look like chicken, something like chicken without feather, but I was not happy with. And then build up the thing, and it looked like a small dinosaur, and that was awful. I said, cut the legs, and so finally we only had the head and the tail, and that was enough.
What I liked about the film is that it was a very logical film in many ways with a thriller format, and I thought that was an excellent blend. But it's perfectly reasonable. It seemed to me that something should that some organism should incubate within the warmth of another being, in that way.
I feel the strongest thing is always if it happened in your body or in someone's body. That's enormous. A worm in some, a worm in a living body. Oh. Yeah, that's just under the skin, and you see how it moves. Ooh, wow, wow. Yeah, I hate worms and snakes and things like that. It's awful. Ooh.
Well, people always ask me if we knew what was happening. Well, of course, we'd read a script. We knew that this little beast was going to come out.
We all knew what was in the script, which was the chest burster, and then the line that John had, "Oh my God," and it was this long word.
Sigourney and I actually had a scene after where we had to have seen the little thing. So they took us down to the puppet shop because we said, we don't even know what it looks like. I mean, if we're supposed to be relating to this thing, we need to know what it looks like. So they took us down to the puppet shop to show us. And, of course, they were so cute. I mean, here's this, like, sort of penis thing with these teeth. And here's this, the guy go, oh, and it's fabulous. Watch this. It breathes. See how it breathes? And then its teeth will go in and out. He starts describing this whole thing. Of course, it wasn't totally finished, but he was, like, so excited. Oh, okay, thanks.
The atmosphere on the set had a certain frisson, in the morning, because everybody knew that this was filmically a sort of major scene. I don't think anybody had any idea that it would become a kind of film classic. It was much publicized, the fact that the cast didn't know what was going to happen. Well, of course, they knew what was going to happen. They knew that the alien was going to arrive that way. What they didn't know is that it was going to be capped with little explosives, and that when it actually burst through, there'd be quite a shattering explosion, and that they'd all get splattered with blood and stuff.
I was watching him go about all this, so I was watching the effects, how they were going to set it up, so I perhaps may have been the only one that was aware of how this was going to be done.
This was going to create such a mess. It was going to be a one-take operation anyway. So the table was the round kitchen table upon which John would fall, and they'd turn him over, stretch him out, and hold him down, and then he could start. Somewhere in there would be a airline on his chest, which would let off a blast of air in pink, which will go like that, and they all go, Jesus, leap back, and that gives them a cut. After that, clear the set. Then we go in, and we basically screw down a artificial chest onto the table, which has its T-shirt pulled, tightly on it. Then you got to razor blade this gently, because when that thing hits, you want it to burst it, because you're going to have a one shot, and in there's going to be bloodlines on high pressure pumps. They're going to blow blood everywhere.
I think our call was probably like 8 o'clock in the morning, something like that. 3 hours, 4 hours goes by. So Harry's in the aisles. He's playing music. I think we even went to lunch, and we came back, and we're still sitting up there.
I remember Veronica had no idea and wanted to be kept in the dark.
By this point, we were wondering, what the hell is going on? So by the time they take us down to the set, the entire thing is shrouded in plastic. They have huge big buckets of offal sitting around. The place smells of formaldehyde like you wouldn't believe it.
I think Nicky ought to sent one of the guys down to, Ridley being keen on reality, to the local abattoir, where they got some kind of offal and a lot of blood and nasty bits and pieces.
We went and got all sorts of horrible things and buried it inside the chest. The special effects guys had arranged a ram for it to break out.
When we came down to the set, there was going to be a rehearsal, which I think is great, and everyone was in black raincoats, and Ron Shusett and Dan O'Bannon, the original writers of the chestburster idea, were over in the corner kind of going, like kids before Christmas.
I saw their faces when they brought them in. What they saw was John Hurt spread out on this table with all of these hoses. Everybody is covered up in suits. The actors walk in and they see that waiting for them. And I saw them, their faces all sort of dropped. They all sort of went like this, and their eyes got big and roamed around all over this stuff.
He says, all right, well, the thing comes through the chest and stuff like that. So we'll just start this scene. And then the special effects guy says to me, oh, you'll get a little blood on you. I said, oh, okay, and so we all start. John's acting, So everybody starts to lean in. And all of a sudden, Ridley shouts, cut! Because they realized that it wasn't going to break through this sort of starting scene that had been built.
We had problems with actually getting the device through the T-shirt, and the T-shirt had been sort of hit with a bit of acid and stuff to make it weaker, and then very carefully cut with blades and things. And so when that thing pushes up in the beginning and doesn't come through the thing, that was actually a mistake. But it looked so good with the blood sort of surging through the T-shirt.
So off we go again. So we're all leaning forward, we're all looking. And all of a sudden this thing, I mean, that was the first take. It was everybody's reaction. When that thing burst out of there, and they shot me with an entire blood pellet. It was like a jet of blood that hit I was so taken aback. My knees hit the back of the banquette, and I flipped upside down, and I had 2 cowboy boots sticking up. I turn over, I realize they're still shooting. I have to get up, and I continue acting.
I was looking across the chest on a longer lens towards Veronica Cartwright and Ian Holm. Blood sprayed everywhere. And I'm thinking to myself, God, what a fantastic actress, right? God, Ian's reacting well. God, that's great. I realized that Veronica was in shock.
She was so hysterical. She cries so much. I think it was real.
What you saw on camera was the real response. She had no idea what the hell happened. All of a sudden, this thing just came up.
Slow, Roger, and blood push out.
We didn't know what it was going to look like. And, I remember blood. I looked over, and Veronica had blood all over her face. It was shocking. It was, all at once, it was like for real.
There's this great master where all of us are like watching it run off, because I think we were totally taken aback by how skillful it would be. The little thing did its little, and gosh, it looked alive, and then we were all in shock. How'd they do that, as actors and as characters?
The whole thing was really a trick in the cut. I mean, as I went onto the table and was in pain and so on, you might say in the pangs of birth, there was a cut to the other side of the table by which time I had been replaced by a replica body, and that I was bent double under a hole in the table. So that happened in the cut from this side to that side. And then there was quite a long time as one prop man underneath the table kept pushing this alien on a stick, saying, "Is it coming through yet, Eric? Can you see it? Is it coming through?" He says, "No, not yet, Alf." A lot of that was going on.
Under the table is Roger Deakins, who had actually finally got to do the chest burst. That wasn't Giger, it was Roger Deakins. And he let it fly, and it was very simply just underneath, next to John, shove it hard through up here, hits the thing, and bursts out. And then he has somebody on wires who's got to make it go, the snarl, and then reaction of the actors. Then I can go to the next setup. And meanwhile, there'll be blood everywhere.
Turning, and ready, Rog? Yeah. And action.
Blood.
Blood.
Enough.
Push it out, pump it. Snarl. Okay, and the head back. Snarl, go! Shit, great. Cut it.
Cut it. Save the blood.
The table was split, actually. There was about a 6-inch, maybe 8-inch gap. They had a man on a dolly, sort of skateboard thing underneath, and he had the puppet up like this. And then there was a guy with a tow rope on the other side, and he would do his thing, and then they would just whip him out, and off he'd go.
They wanted the tail to move on it, and I hit upon the idea of just putting a little tiny thin plastic tube down the end of the tail, and just valving about 100 pounds to the square inch through the tail, and it made the tail do that as it went whistling off across the floor. And it was something that took us 5 minutes to do, and we thought that was going to be one of those things that was going to take us for ages to do.
Things could be done in post today. We'll digitally do the little baby alien and stick him on later, etc. But we had to do it kind of then. So it's the same old kind of elastic band and chewing gum making movie type mentality that I think we were forced to use, but very, very effective. When it's cut well and shot well, it works incredibly effectively.
To me, when I look back, it's John's performance that's heartbreaking. He's our hero. and that this could happen to him is still, you know, spine-tingling.
We started off with the idea that the monster, there'd be no scales, no fangs, no claws. You know, it's going to be something completely different. Once we'd seen the head, the Giger head that became the alien, we were in great shape on that. And Rambaldi actually built a separate head with 900 moving parts.
There are also tubes from an old Rolls Royce, there are from vertebrae, from snakes, and it was a mixture from everything together, was built up together with plasticine that doesn't shrink much, and so it holds. You can put things together normally, it's not possible.
The creature design was one of those things that just kept on looming. In the end, that became, I think, one of my sort of major tasks was to find people or to help find people. And I found Roger Dickin, who designed the face hugger, chest burster, and all that, the smaller things. He wanted very much to design the creature, but and there were several sort of attempts at that, but until Gordon Carroll, one of the three producers, but the main producer on the movie, brought in Carlo Rambaldi, done Close Encounters. They brought him in to actually put Giger's designs into practice. And I think we had one or two attempts at tails and heads from various people at Shepperton. You know, we had this elaborate mechanical tail that never ever really quite worked. So there were several attempts before Rambaldi was brought on at quite a lot of, over the budget, unfortunately, to do it. But my God, it did work from then on.
Because the Giger is the author, number one, of the creation of Alien, I don't suggest anything about modify something, the detail of the vein, of the muscle, of the face. No. In this case, the creator is Giger.
When the alien, the actual alien creature, which had been designed by Giger, and manufactured by Carlo Rambaldi and his team, arrived, Ridley had a few problems with it. The jaw mechanism actually had visible springs and things which were sticking out, and the head was wider than Ridley wanted it.
His paint, I think, was too long, the face. Must reduce, and too many detail. We conserve a lot of detail, but I think 20% of detail the movement no need. You modify little. The mechanism of the mouth no was very complicated. It's 3 movements. One cable for open the mouth, second cable the tongue coming out from the mouth, and another cable for open the small mouth of the tongue. This is general mechanical system for the tongue, this drawing. And the tongue, when open the mouth, the tongue slide. Because it's impossible to clear the actor, we use this mechanical system just for control this movement. But after this mechanism was reduced very, when the actor is inside, because this is exactly the position of the head of the actor.
Well, it's going to be a guy in a suit, and don't forget technology today, it'd be easy.
First we tried to invent something, so Ridley asked for some people from a circus, and they tried to walk in a specific way, or he wants to put 2 or 3 people together, bend them together and to put something over, and it was always a little ridiculous, the whole thing, and it wasn't scary. And so we decided I think it's the scariest thing is to be very close to a human being.
In those days, I couldn't even get latex thin enough that wouldn't break, you know, quickly. And it would also take sculptural elements of sinew, and because you've got to lay the sinews into the rubber suit. So suddenly the rubber suit isn't like, it should have been as thin as a contraceptive and as strong as nylon, right? Because then I can crush this person into the suit and have all kinds of things built and stitched into it. I need someone extraordinarily thin, because whatever you did, there was a stuntman who was pretty thin, we put him in, he didn't look right. Funny enough, that week, one of the casting directors had been standing in a pub and had stared at this guy who looked like probably close to 7 feet, right? And very slender, very thin, kind of elegant, and his name was Balaji. So the guy had gone over to him in the pub and said, you know, they all lined, how would you like to be in movies? And the guy had a kind of North London accent, and he was a graphic designer. So he turned up with very bemused and curious, and he was then attached to the film for the next 10 months. And so he did all the stuff where he had to, like coming out the wall in the shuttle at the end, in the corridor coming around the corner when Sigourney's trying to get out with the cat, when he approaches Veronica Cartwright with his tail, and we get this sense of something really hideous because you hear her off camera.
They built the suit to him, which was just unbelievable. I mean, his hands were below his kneecaps when he would just stand normally. So they just literally put gloves on him with elongated hands, and they put that head on him, and they sent him to Tai Chi and to mime classes so that he could learn to slow down and manipulate, and roll up. And when he first gets me, he's in a down position, and he comes up and rolls out, and it was just so creepy.
I always felt keep it really tight and only see the bits you want to see, because this is always stronger than anything else. So if you think you've seen something, it's always going to be probably more horrific and horrifying.
I asked to Ridley, why are you shooting very little of Alien? And Ridley said, Carlo, the audience have terror when they don't see nothing. When see the dark area, because expecting the monster possible here, it is its maximum, the level of the suspense. Say, no, it's good. I shoot this little, Carlo, be quiet. Your movie, your monster, people saw, but very little.
Well, actually, we see quite a lot of the beast. And you certainly get a good old look at the chestburster. You get a terrific look at the egg. You get a great look at the other elements and the evolutions. And I think you get plenty. You get a great look at the head, which is beautiful. Harry Dean Stanton, the thing's hanging there.
Now, that was a gymnast that they got him put in that suit, and he was curled up in the change. The amazing thing was, when they shot up, you couldn't even tell that he was up there. The way he uncoiled and came down and then put his arms out, and I mean, it looked like, that crucifix. Christ is ascending. I'm going to take your life now. I mean, it was like very bizarre and very sort of gothic, which goes a lot with what the whole Giger gothic thing is. Poor guy couldn't sit down, so they made a special swing for him. Tom Skerritt said, I mean, this guy can't walk around like this. This is ridiculous. Do something for this poor person. They hadn't even thought of how he was going to sit down, because you have that tail and that rubber suit. I mean, that poor thing was in that suit all day long.
I came to work one day right at the lunch break, so the big doors were open, and out of the sound stage came the crew and the alien monster, still in his suit, but with the head off, thin as a nail. And he's walking with the wardrobe lady, who's 5 feet. And they're talking politics with a very intense conversation as they're walking off to lunch. And he's got these tennis shoes on that are bright blue, Adidas. And the tail is being carried by another wardrobe guy who was rather flamboyant guy who had this white ascot blowing in the wind. It was one of those, I wish I could have photographed that one.
We used to have a dresser. His name was Mother. We called her Mother. And he was in charge of doing the alien. Of course, there was always supposed to be a lot of slime and stuff on him.
KY jelly was very much in fashion at the time, and I think that was put on everything that moved in front of the camera, on the alien, it was dripping from everywhere.
I have never seen bigger tubes of KY jelly. They were like gigantic sizes. And then you'd have Mother going, "I'll do it." And then he would come running out with his huge big tubes of KY and start caressing this poor alien's ass, rubbing it and making it glisten. And oh God, it was hysterical. We did have some good times.